Welcome to another episode of The Weekend with Candor Beach. Today we've got Adani, Gemini by Google, and new seats from POK. So, Sailesh, what's up with the POK thing?
So I think it's pretty controversial. First, the Home Minister, Minister Amit Shah, actually declaring that POK is actually India's, and this caused a huge uproar in Pakistan, right? So, which is legally India's, and they were just occupied part of Kashmir, right? POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So Amit Shah went ahead and reserved 24 seats for POK in the parliament. This can be, the critics also call it like it's like seat counting so that it actually benefit BJP in the next Lok Sabha elections. But all that apart, it's actually it's a strategically very good move. But I mean, if you look, there was a recent parliament thing too, right? So they were wanted to increase the representation of women in parliament. There was a reservation for women. So if you combine all that, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on reservation in general.
Yeah,
Um,
reservation for women, and have some comments about the POK 24 seats.
I'm going to start by saying that there are institutions that I have been privy to that use diversity and women interchangeably. And I
Mhm.
think that fundamentally creates an identity that is not going to support the goal. If the goal is for equality, particularly equality and opportunity amongst the genders, I say amongst and not between because more than two now. Um, but if you're focused on, like, jokes apart, if you're focused on equality of opportunity, you can't you can't actively create a separate identity for a group and then ask for that identity to be assimilated with another identity. It's like you're saying, this is male dominated. Corporate India, as an example, is male dominated. Then you are saying that women need to have an equal footing. You are creating separate identities to begin with: male, female. Now there are institutions that are taking it to an extent where you are actively calling women diversity. You're addressing them as diversity. Now, if you are diversity, how are you a part of the main play? Another thing that people
Yeah.
tend to be doing is you are according diversity with special treatment. Now, look at the
Mm.
army or look at socialism in general. These institutions like socialism or armies, they are looking at uniformity. They're trying to ensure that different groups, like, let's stick with the army. It's possibly easy to understand. You have people from different states coming in together. You have people from
Yeah.
different cultures, different economic walks of life coming in together. But when you are a part of the army, any form of military, you are eating the same, you are living in similar quarters, you are dressed the same way,
Mm.
you are asked to train the same way. There are lots of
Yeah.
things that bring in those commonalities, but you are not doing that here. Like, you're creating separate entities altogether with men and women. Then you could argue that men and women are fundamentally different, in which case, why are you trying to treat us equally to begin with? Like, the entire thing is flawed. And I believe that if you are looking at equality of opportunity, you need to first and foremost start by dropping separate identities. You need to treat us all as people, and then see, like, as an argument, focus on merit. Like, if, as an example, a man is better at something, put that man, and I'm not talking about gender, I'm talking about that individual in that spot. If a woman is better, again,
Person.
individual, not gender, put that person in that
Yeah.
spot. That's it. Like, that would solve our crisis. Right now you're trying to develop a individual identity for different groups and assimilating those different groups. Does not compute.
Yeah.
It's literally what our body fights against, right? White blood cells versus foreign bodies. You're creating
Antigen.
turmoil.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up a pretty controversial,
But we haven't even circled to
argument to
the
the table.
parliament. But let's circle to the parliament. Right
Yeah.
now, you have
So
reservations in the
yeah.
parliament. The problem with reservations
Mm,
is you are trying to create an equal outcome. So if the population
yeah.
distribution in a country is 1:1, what are the numbers in India? About, you said 49,
Um.
51.
So 49% women, 51% men,
Nearly one
and
is to one.
in the parliament, yeah, the upper house Lok Sabha, I mean the lower house Lok Sabha has about out of 542 seats, there are about 72 are women,
So
so
let's take
about
those numbers.
14%.
Yeah. So 70, and let's
Yeah.
round up 540 to 560. That's 1 is
Mm-hmm.
to 8, right? 7 eighths are 56.
Mm.
So 1 is to 8. So
Yeah.
that's 12.5%. So about
Yeah.
12
12,
point,
13, 14%. Let's say
no,
14%.
it's bang on 12.5%. 1 by 8 is 12.5. Well, whatever,
Okay,
not important.
12.5. Mm.
Oh, yeah, the denominator is smaller. Fine, let's take 14%. Sorry.
Okay.
So with reservations, you're looking at an equality of outcome. But the issue
Mm.
with that outcome is that you are not addressing the fundamental issue, the underlying principle that is preventing women from taking up parliamentary seats. I think the
Yeah.
fundamental thing is to better understand why women aren't participating in the first place. Are there an equal number of women participating in elections to begin with? And I'm not saying are they participating because their constituency is focused on, like, is an all women's constituency and therefore you can only have women participating there, because that's been done, right? Like there are certain constituencies that have been converted to focusing on women alone, because of which
Yeah. Yeah.
you have men fielding women to be proxies for them, which does not solve the
Yeah. That
fundamental issue.
happens all the time.
And the thing with the reservations is, I'm not talking about just women not participating in politics. Like, why are you and I not participating in politics? You and I being examples. Why are more people not participating in politics? Because there's certain barriers to entry that have been created, right? Like, it isn't the cheapest thing in the
Mm-hmm.
world to just be like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to stand for election because I feel like I'm a good representation for my constituency. There are certain barriers that
Yeah.
have been erected by incumbents, like economical barriers, for instance. Now, dynastical politics, you see that in the Congress with the Gandhis. You have
Mm-hmm.
celebrities like in Andhra Pradesh coming in and deciding that, all right, so my huge acting career gives me the right to now govern this state or constituency. I have the expertise now to govern this constituency. And they're garnering support. I'm talking about Praja Rajyam and like even
Pavan Kalyan.
no, I was thinking further south.
Oh, the Jayalalitha.
Yeah, yeah.
Further south. Yeah.
You could say
So
Jayalalitha. I was thinking Chiranjeevi actually, not Chiranjeevi. Chiranjeevi founded a party. Damn,
yeah.
dude. Like no, Anna, dude.
Oh,
Rajnikant.
Karunanidhi.
No,
Oh,
Rajnikant.
Rajnikant. No,
Rajnikant started
Rajnikant.
a. He
He's
briefly
left
started a.
politics, right? So
Yeah, but he briefly
yeah,
started,
briefly,
right?
and yeah,
Damn, dude.
he was in and out. Yeah.
But my point
So
is,
yeah.
like, why? What has made them decide that they are going to suddenly govern politics, and if like govern people, and why was their resolve so weak? Like, I stepped into politics for the heck of it. I got bored, and I'm stepping out because I didn't see enough support, so these people don't want me. Like, what?
Well,
Like, were
they
you motivated
regard
truly?
politics not as a primary occupation, more like a secondary occupation. They can still step out and go back to the movie career, So
So what
it's
I'm
not the primary thing.
So what I'm
Yeah.
getting at is that there are these barriers to entry that prevent people who might want to govern the country or might be better suited to governing the country or constitutions
Exactly.
than the people who are currently there. There are these barriers to entry, and I think that needs to be fundamentally addressed. Participation needs to be addressed. Then you look into how you can solve like a lack of women or a lack of it's
The
a
diversity.
rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But
So
participation is what I'm
it's
getting
a
at.
pretty controversial argument we have. Let's jump on to our second topic.
All right. Like final word on that though, I think like fundamentally
Yeah.
address participation. That's what I would say to the reservation question. to the diversity quota, address participation. What's going on there? Uh, Topic two, I would say, is AI related. Google's launching Gemini, which is going to enable mobile devices to compute AI. Now your AI, I shouldn't say
So
programming,
your
but
phone's
computing.
becoming AI powerful, right?
Yeah,
So AI computing
AI computing is
capability
being
on your
brought
phone itself.
into mobile devices. So that solves certain data issues.
Fantastic.
Like there are people who
Hmm.
aren't okay with data being taken out of their devices and then being
Hmm.
computed elsewhere because
Localized data collection, localized
absolutely,
data, and processing in the phone itself. So
which
that's
reduces
actually
overall
fantastic
server
idea.
costs, right? Because I'm not
Yeah.
processing elsewhere. I'm processing on my device, so overall costs come down.
So let me ask you: this is only with Google, or is it all platform friendly, or is it just with the Bard?
I think Google's going to start by curtailing it to an extent. Like it's going to be easier to
Hmm.
assimilate this sort of a program into the Google suite, and it's going to
Yeah.
eventually compete with everything else. Like it's going to integrate with everything else and compete with the likes of ChatGPT. ChatGPT's already opened up APIs where you can build your own apps or your own programs and take
Yeah.
advantage
Yeah.
of
The
ChatGPT, right? So
yeah
to be able to compete with ChatGPT, Google's going to have to do this.
open source chat GPT. Yes. So yeah, that's a great move actually.
Quick question
So
with the
moving
ChatGPT
on.
thing.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on the whole OpenAI stance, the one with Sam Altman, and
Um,
you know why they tried to axe him, right? Like when they ousted him, they talked about how he was moving into a revenue direction by creating this ChatGPT marketplace of sorts that the board was
I
not
mean,
comfortable
chat
with.
GPT is it bleeds a lot of money, right? So it's about 700K per year to run it.
And Sam
So
Altman was looking at a revenue source per that
yeah,
documentation.
so which is good, but I don't know why the board was not standing behind it. He was trying to make it, profit oriented company instead of running it into a loss, which is actually a very good thing to do as a CEO. And board, I don't know why they would stop him from doing it, and
He
I'm
said
glad he asked them.
differences. I'm
Yeah,
glad he had
so
support from Microsoft and he circled back in. We don't know more than what we've read about so far,
exactly.
but
I'm really happy Microsoft stood with him and not just stood with the board, which is an exception, right? Most of the time, the parent company actually stands with the board than the CEO.
example Tesla and Elon Musk back when he had started
Yeah.
SpaceX.
So
Yeah. All
so yeah.
right. What's
So
third on the docket?
the third one is the comeback of Adani.
What are your thoughts there? Why did Adani make a comeback this last week?
So Adani took a big hit from the Hindenburg research, right? He fell multiple, what do you call the positions from the Forbes list. He went from being the third, and now he's slowly gaining back. And Adani, one of the big things was there was a Supreme Court lawsuit which dropped all charges against Adani with regards to the Adani Hindenburg, the scandal, right? So there were questions which were coming up that he was using, and when that happened, he rose back to normalcy, and after the three election victory, uh, three states victory by BJP, it also turbocharged him. So if you look at all the companies, regardless of which company you pick under his conglomerate, went up 5-6%. Some went up 20%. So it was, comeback of Adani. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, I can't help but see this correlation in the fact that you have a certain party that's been accused of favoritism to a certain group, the Adani group, And like the moment they win, you see the Adani shares get turbocharged, like they're going up 20, 15, 20% per day.
Mm.
They also rose right after that Supreme Court verdict that you talked about, where uh, it was basically a plea against the SEBI probe, where SEBI was not able to conclude its investigation in a certain period of time, and the Supreme Court basically, instead of saying that, all right, yeah, Adani is cleared of all blame, Adani is not to blame for the practices that uh, were brought up in the Hindenburg report and after. They said, "Oh, SEBI is not a useless organization. Like, what do you think SEBI is? SEBI has certain
Mm.
respect. SEBI has certain standards too. You can't disregard that." Like, I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what they said, but that's more or less what they were getting at. They didn't say that there was no stock manipulation or malpractice. They said that SEBI is not a joke. Like, SEBI is a respectable
Yeah.
organization, and therefore, like, I will not accept this plea against SEBI. So again, not a defense
So
of Adani, a defense of SEBI was what the Supreme Court, because of which, like, this Supreme Court case was thrown out. With respect to the BJP winning in 3 states, I mean, like, this was a conversation that I was having with somebody else the other day. It was Adani's businesses are sound. Like, Adani ports make sense. Adani's transmission, total gas, Adani, Adani as a whole, they
green.
green, yeah, their businesses are sound, like operationally sound. Like, Adani Green has recently came out with like investments in solar power, right? Like, they came up with that. They're
Yeah.
talking about leveraging their business adequately to get to infuse capital into proper investments. Like, the business model in itself is not unsound. The issues that people are bringing up are in how they're being favored over other institutions. They're getting benefits in loan rates, as an example, or they're getting benefits in terms of
Candor, Candor
in
designations.
yeah, those are the benefits they're getting, but their businesses are sound,
Yeah.
right? So they are getting
No.
benefits, certainly, and those are things that you will see in any institution. Like, there's an entire Netflix series called Dirty Money, where you are exploring practices that aren't necessarily over the board by large organizations. Yeah, so
You
it's
know
just something that
what
happens.
actually is kind of little fascinating, right? So in America, if you pick like if you have the Republicans come or the Democrats come, regardless of whoever comes, right? They all, regardless of what party comes in, there's always a favoritism towards the military industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industry,
Okay,
whatever company you pick.
okay.
But then in India, a certain party comes in, they favorite certain kind of companies, and another party comes in, they favorite a certain kind of companies. What I'm trying to say is, like, in America, they favorite all of them. It's not like they're picking sides. But in India, they do pick sides. Like with companies, which is pretty fascinating to look at.
I think what the both of us are getting at is it happens. What
Yeah.
I'm particularly getting at is Adani's businesses as a whole aren't dubious. They exist. They
They're not.
are
Yeah.
like the big ones, like the ones that we're all aware of. Not the I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't explored Adani enough to tell you that this business is good, this business is bad. This is not financial
No, no, no.
advice in any which way.
He has fantastic ports business. The Sri Lanka port is actually very, very sound. He actually, it's a very profitable business in Sri Lanka. That he actually has a $400 million port in Sri Lanka, right?
Right. So what we
Um,
see in terms of the volatility in the stock market is primarily sentiment driven, and like, people
yeah,
assume it's going to fall because people assume that certain malpractices are going to be punished adversely, certain practices are not going to be punished. At the end of the
yeah,
day, everybody is doing it. Like, there are these big organizations that are all at fault somewhere or the other. So that's my take on the Adani thing. Again, this is not financial advice or any sorts, but yeah, that's my take on the
yeah.
Adani thing.
That's I think. That's about it. Those are the three topics.
Yeah, nice,
Um,
short,
do you have
double the
anything minor
duration.
to talk about?
Nah, man. I think we've already
Okay.
overshot by like 10 minutes from what we
Oh,
usually do. Yeah.
well, thank you, everybody. Just like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, thank you so much for staying with us for all of these episodes. I think we've got what 30 episodes in the Candor Beach
Mm,
podcast, and this is like episode 10, 11 ish. So that's like
yes.
40 episodes plus that you guys have been with us for, 40-ish episodes, and we're very grateful for it. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that we are going to do like maybe one or two more episodes for our long form content before we break for the year. We are going to continue with the weekend with Candor Beach, where we bring you our take on weekly news. We're going to continue with that, but we're going to break for a season 2 for the long form of content, and we're going to come back strong. We're going to come back with a new focus, and we're going to come back with additional value. Basically, we're going to try and see how we can
Yeah.
enhance the value we're getting.
Yep.
All right, on that note, thank
Thank
you
you,
very
everyone.
much. See you on the next one.